All right, everybody. Are you guys still awake? Yes? Yes. All right, welcome back to the final session of today's program. All right, that's not enough energy. Did you guys not have any coffee? Snacks? Nothing? Well, we're going to need a little more energy, so can I get a little hype? A little bit? Okay, that was a lot more energy than earlier, so thank you. We all better appreciate why sports are important, so can I get a little whoop whoop? All right, thank you. All right, now how can you fuel and harness that purpose to fuel the growth of your organization and further your impact? I want you to think about that. I want you to not just think of the whoop whoop, but I want you to think of the bigger picture here of why we are here. So we'll first hear from leaders of youth sports organizations that will share their approach to growth and impact, and then hear from leading experts who expand all of our perspectives on what it takes to scale with purpose. Well, first, welcome to the stage, Tatum Binky, Director of Community and Impact Kids in the Game. Let's go. Let's go. And then she'll be followed by Andy Barres of 5-Star Baseball with a story you won't believe. So Tatum, take it away.
Thank you. I have my own special little hype crew over there, which is great. So I'm excited to be here. I first want to thank League Apps for having me. Originally, my boss, Matt Murphy, was supposed to present, and I got the call up last week. So I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit about what we do at Kids in the Game, but I'm going to start talking about boxes. Okay? A little strange, but let's all picture box number 1. So in box number 1 is a person that was put in that box at a really young age. She grew up in a middle-class family in Nevada. Her recreational activities were skiing and soccer while she competed in swimming. She swam the English Channel at 18 because she was in a place of such safety she believed she could do anything. That box that she was in was safe. It was also exciting and rewarding, but most off, it was pretty monotonous. While describing that box, I'm sure most of you guessed it, that box was and still is me. There I am. I was that girl that swam. That was my label. The girl that crossed the English Channel, the girl that swam in college, the girl that finished swimming collegiately only to then start swimming or coaching right away. I put myself in that box, and don't get me wrong, that box molded me into the person I am today and has had a few perks. No lie, when I applied for my first apartment in New York City, I was one of 174 applications. And that was in Queens, not even Manhattan. The landlord said to me he picked me for the apartment because he Googled me, which one I think is illegal, but it was because I swam the English Channel and that I must be trustworthy. How those two things equate, I'm not so sure, and also it just gives you insight to the inequities of New York City. But at the time, I didn't recognize it, but that landlord put me right back into box number 1. Now, before we get too carried away with box number 1, let's talk about box number 2. In box number 2, we have a girl that lives in New York City and has been tasked to run a nonprofit to benefit kids that are growing up very differently than she had. As box number 2 evolved, she found herself leading a boys' AAU basketball program with never having played basketball before, launching an esports league in Harlem with never playing a video game before, and accepting that box number 2 was not always safe. Box number 2 required bravery and the acceptance of failure. There's me now. If you hadn't guessed it, it's still me. I'm currently a leader of a nonprofit, a director of a basketball program in the city called King Hoops, a B Corp impact leader, and a believer in the positive social change through sports. On the daily, I rarely talk about box number 1. In fact, the kids that I mentor in our basketball program could not care less that I swam in college. But Miss Tatum, swimming is not basketball. Is swimming even hard, they often ask? That's a different story for a different day. The story for today is just because I don't talk about box number 1 doesn't mean that it's not infused into my box number 2. And that's because as people, business owners, and leaders in the sports industry, we should not be stuck in one box. But how often is it that we mention a few indicators about our business? I'm sure it's happened in the networking sessions outside, that you tell someone, hey, I run a for-profit lacrosse program on Long Island. Straight away, you're put into a box, right? You're well-funded. It's pay to play. It's exclusive. Your kids dream of going to Ivy League schools, and your impact is simply the benefit of playing sports. Unconscious or conscious bias, that is your box. On the flip side, you tell someone you run an AAU basketball program on the south side of Chicago. Straight away, you're put into a box. You're underfunded, lack of resources. You do serve a diverse population, and your impact probably goes beyond sport. You are a second family to those kids. That is your box. Now let's be honest, some of those indicators are true, right? If you're a for-profit business, you likely are pay to play. But that does not mean that you don't care about impact and that you don't have a well-thought-out theory of change. If you're a nonprofit, no doubt your impact speaks volumes. But that does not automatically mean you are underfunded, and it does not mean that your kids need to receive less. These boxes should not be mutually exclusive. As the sports industry, we have got to continue to push the boundary of infusing all the best things from those two boxes. And that's what we're trying to do at Kids in the Game. Now, I started at Kids in the Game about 5 years ago, and let me tell you what box we were in. Start up. Every single person that worked there, including our CEO, was out in the field covering programs, teaching sports just to make it work. It was a rare occurrence that I didn't have a bag of soccer balls in my apartment just in case I needed to run to a Saturday morning class just to pitch in. Our job descriptions were admittedly blurred, and it was the perfect box for burnout and exhaustion. But now, 5+ years later, the majority of our full-time team is still here. We face challenges just like any other company. It's a gig economy, pandemic recovery, crawling ourselves out of being a startup, just to name a few. But I think the code that we have cracked at Kids in the Game is finding a really strong balance between profitability and impact. And this is what keeps our kids coming back, and is what keeps our staff on staff and feeling like they should be coming to work every day. Our core business serves about 15,000 kids across New York City in school programs, summer camps, and competitive sports. And the big news of this session is we are one of the only youth sports organizations, not only in this country, but in this world, that is a certified B Corp. Does everyone know what a B Corp is? So this means, as a for-profit business, we meet the highest standard of balancing profit and purpose. It means that purpose and impact is infused into every little thing that we do. We do not grow if it does not grow impact. Being a B Corp is awesome. However, we are still in that nonprofit or that for-profit box, right? We have and continue to have gaps in the impact that we dream of. So instead of sitting by the wayside and thinking of those gaps, 5 years ago, our leadership team was tired of it, so they decided to launch a 501c3 nonprofit entity that works right alongside our B Corp. What this nonprofit allows us to do is fill our gaps. We can provide financial assistance to families that cannot afford youth programming. It also allows us to examine our current programs and see where we can do better. Is there a grant available that's out there to bring life skills programming to our basketball program? Of course there is. Now we have the ability to apply for that grant and infuse the best parts of a nonprofit business with a B Corp. By combining the two, neither side is spread too thin, right? So I talked about those two boxes. One, pay to play, one that may be underfunded, that relies too much on donors. Now we can do both and not have to say no. And I think that's the biggest thing, is a problem gets brought to our business and we don't necessarily have to say no right away because of the box that we're in. Is the hybrid business model that we're in confusing? Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it is. Is it double amount of work? Yeah, sometimes. But for the extra work comes extra impact and the refusal to stay in a labeled box. I'm not up here to encourage everyone here to have 2 businesses or spread yourselves too thin, but what I am up here to do is encourage the leaders in youth sports to think outside the box. Your growth can have purpose, and your purpose can have growth. And the cool thing is when we do combine those two, the greatest benefactor is not our staff, it is not our CEO, but it is our kids. And that is the whole point. Thank you very much.
Rick, thing works. Yep. Sorry, guys. I just got off the plane and came right here and just got here in time. But kind of want to share my story with Jeremy a little bit about where I came from and grew up in a little small town. Got drafted out of high school and went and played 7 years minor league baseball. And I thought my career was going to be in professional baseball and playing professional baseball, but there were other plans. So I come back, end up getting hurt, retired in '02, come back, started a little indoor facility, baseball facility there in South Georgia, and started kind of just, I never really had a whole lot growing up, so I had a bunch of money that I was accumulating, and so the banker came to me and said, hey, you want to buy some houses? I said, yeah, I'll buy some houses if that's what I need to do. And that got into ended up buying some other stuff. But, having a Dairy Queen and everything that, I had Goodyear stores. I bought a little bit of everything because I don't think I really knew what I was supposed to be doing in life, so I was trying to figure it out. Well, we ended up taking the Dairy Queens in '06. We took them from a $600,000 store to a $900,000 store and ended up receiving what was called the Operator of the Year Award. Well, I'm riding down the road. This was in '07, '08, I think it was. I'm riding down the road and I get a phone call. And I answered and he said, hey, do you have time to take a phone call from Mr. Warren Buffett? Berkshire Hathaway obviously owns Dairy Queen Corp. Obviously, we know Mr. Buffett owns Berkshire Hathaway. So I'm like, yeah, this is a joke, right? Who's my buddy in the background? And so anyway, they put me on the phone and Mr. Buffett says, hey, I want to come talk to you. Wow, are you serious? He said, yeah, very, very precise about his questioning, what he had, what he wanted to do. And so the following Tuesday, he shows up. And, this whole time, I'm thinking, hey, this is my chance in life. This is my one time, to make that lick or like we all think we're able to do. But never happens, but it's one of those things where I'm so excited. All my thing. Hey, this is my chance in life. Here's the little South Georgia boy that grew up in a trailer park to get an opportunity to talk to Mr. Warren Buffett and get that opportunity. Well, he comes in and he little small talk and he starts asking me a question. Well, I just stopped it. I said, well, I want to ask you something. And he took his finger and he held it up and he said, I told you I was coming here to talk to you. And so my whole, everything just sunk down. I'm just like, well, there went my chance. I'm lost. Well, about 45 minutes later, he had asked me every question in the book, from where I put my hamburger buns to how I placed my $20 bills in the cash register. Every question that you could, and this time I sat there and he said, he told me yeah, I'll give you a couple minutes when we get done. Well, next couple minutes were there, and he said, okay. And I said, you've answered every question I need to know. And it was real simple. Go find out who's doing it the best. Go find out who's doing it the best and figure out how they're doing it. And so the rest of my life, like, you know, we own the largest, I own the largest travel organization in the country. 2 years ago, it's called 5-Star Baseball. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, we became the largest. And in terms of volume, that, you know, and again, I guess you could measure it by a lot of different factors, but Perfect Game, who obviously runs the biggest organization as far as travel baseball goes, you know, we became larger than the second and third line combined. And so, you know, the thing that, you know, all of us in here, you know, it's you know, how do you grow? You know, how do we get bigger? You know, how do we manage our business better? And it's, to me, it was always real simple. And that value that I learned is go find out who's doing it best. Go find out, you know, in your industry, who's doing it better than anybody. And I've learned a lot growing up just through, you know, obviously I have a good friend of mine, and he always told me when I was doing these Dairy Queens, and you know, we had a tire shop, I had all kinds of stuff, car washes, and he always told me, he said you stick to what you know. And so, kind of a long story, you know, in 2002, like I said, I'd kind of gotten away from baseball because I'd gotten involved in all this other stuff. And in 2009, you know, we started back into baseball. Got 29 different locations throughout the Southeast and Midwest that we partner with and own. You know, in 2015, we had 4 decisions in the state of Georgia. And so went through a rebranding phase. Never thought I would have to do anything like that. You know, I don't know if you guys ever had to do that. I could tell you all about it. It was the greatest thing ever, but it was the hardest thing ever because you don't want to ever leave your name that you know, I played, it was originally called Chain Baseball, and I had played with them and coming up before when I got drafted, so it was hard to leave that name behind and start 5-Star Baseball is what we ended up doing. But it was you know, we've had a lot of learning experiences. But my biggest thing, like I said, what I wanted to come share was, you know, the simple fact of, you know, somebody's doing it, whoever's doing it the best, you know, let's go sit down with them and let's figure out how they're doing it. And you know, I think that's what, for me, that's what, you know, it's what has made us who we are. You know, like I said, larger than the number 2 and the 3 combined travel organizations as far as it comes to baseball. So, but thank you guys.